The first sign that my one-night mistake was becoming a disaster was waking up between an alpha and a beta and realizing they were holding hands across me. 12 hours earlier, I had been absolutely certain my biggest problem was surviving a work conference without humiliating myself. Then my suppressant failed. In a downtown Chicago hotel. During a thunderstorm. Because apparently the universe had looked at Elliot Parker, 26, underpaid marketing coordinator, professionally anxious omega, and decided I wasn't entertaining enough. By 11 that night, I was sitting on the carpet beside my hotel bed, sweating through my t-shirt and glaring at my phone while rain hammered the windows. Calling the clinic meant explaining why I'd ignored the warning signs. Calling my mother meant receiving a 40-minute lecture followed by 6 months of concerned texts. Death seemed simpler. Then someone knocked. Elliot. Mason Reed's voice came through the door. Of course it was Mason. Calm, annoyingly observant Mason, the beta from our consulting team who remembered everyone's coffee order and somehow noticed when people were pretending to be fine. Go away. Silence. That sounded extremely fine. I'm practicing. Another pause. Open the door. I considered pretending I'd escaped through the window. We were 14 floors up, which weakened the plan. I opened the door 3 inches. Mason took one look at me and stopped smiling. What do you need? Not what's wrong with you. Not should I find an alpha. What do you need? Something inside my chest loosened. Water. Suppressant. Maybe a new endocrine system. I can definitely get 2 of those. He came inside only after I nodded. That mattered. Mason always made things feel like choices. He found bottled water, lowered the thermostat, and called the 24-hour pharmacy. Then another knock hit the door. Mason glanced at me. Expecting someone? Unless room service delivers emotional stability, no. Mason checked the peephole and went very still. It's Adrian. My stomach dropped. Adrian Cross wasn't technically my boss, which was unfortunate because then I could have blamed workplace hierarchy for why he made me nervous. He was simply an alpha with broad shoulders, dark hair, gray-blue eyes, and the emotional accessibility of a locked bank vault. Mason opened the door. Adrian's gaze moved from him to me, and every trace of his usual cool expression disappeared. Elliot. Just my name. Somehow that was worse. I'm okay. You're sitting on the floor. It's very supportive flooring. Mason snorted. Adrian didn't. He stepped forward, then deliberately stopped several feet away. Do you want me here? That question surprised me more than his arrival. I looked between them. Mason, steady and warm. Adrian, tense but waiting. Neither man moved closer. Neither decided for me. Stay, I whispered. So they stayed. The storm knocked out power 20 minutes later, leaving the room lit by emergency lights and lightning. We talked because silence felt dangerous. Mason told terrible stories until I laughed. Adrian surrendered his expensive jacket when I started shivering. Somewhere after midnight, exhaustion replaced panic. I made them promise 3 things before I let myself sleep. One night, I murmured, no bond, no feelings. Mason smiled softly. That's only 2. Third rule is nobody points that out. Adrian almost smiled. Almost. Morning arrived bright and offensively cheerful. I opened my eyes beneath unfamiliar blankets. Mason asleep on my left and Adrian on my right. Both fully dressed after spending the night making sure I was safe. For one peaceful second, I remembered nothing. Then I noticed Adrian's arm stretched across the blanket. His hand wasn't touching me. It was wrapped loosely around Mason's wrist. Mason's fingers were curled around Adrian's. And suddenly I understood something terrifying. I might not be the dangerous part of this arrangement. Adrian woke first, which would have been reassuring if he had not immediately discovered that he was holding Mason's hand. His eyes dropped to their joined fingers, then lifted to Mason's sleeping face. And for the first time since I had met Adrian Cross, the most controlled alpha in Chicago looked genuinely alarmed. I watched him carefully release Mason's hand, as if he were defusing something expensive. Good morning, I said. Adrian froze. How long have you been awake? Long enough to witness history. Mason opened one eye. Why does history sound disappointed? I pointed between them. You two were holding hands. Mason looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at the ceiling. You were between us, Adrian said. That explanation somehow explains nothing. Mason sat up, hair flattened on one side, and started laughing. The sound changed the room. Last night's fear had disappeared, but something stranger remained, something none of us seemed willing to name. Adrian escaped first. He stood, straightened his shirt, and transformed back into the polished man who could silence conference rooms simply by entering them. I have a meeting downstairs in 40 minutes. There he is, I muttered. Corporate Glacier has returned. Mason headed toward the coffee machine. He needs caffeine before he can experience human emotions. Adrian gave him a look. Mason handed him a cup anyway. Adrian accepted it without asking how Mason knew his order. That bothered me more than it should have. 10 minutes later, Mason was making toast while Adrian stood beside me checking the pharmacy instructions on my medication. They behaved with the casual efficiency of people who had done this together for years, except they had not. You should eat, Adrian said. You should stop giving orders before breakfast. That was not an order. Mason placed toast in front of me. Eat. I stared at him. Betrayal. Mason smiled. Adrian almost did again. Then his phone rang. His expression changed before he answered. Cross. Silence. His shoulders tightened. Where did you get that? Mason stopped moving. Adrian walked toward the window. Do not respond. Send everything to legal. He ended the call and turned around. We have a problem. My stomach sank. Please tell me the hotel accidentally charged us for 3 breakfasts. Adrian held out his phone. A photograph filled the screen. The 3 of us leaving the elevator corridor shortly before midnight. Mason carrying the pharmacy bag. Adrian beside me with his jacket around my shoulders. Me looking exhausted enough to qualify as evidence in a criminal trial. Someone had posted it online. The caption claimed Adrian Cross had been secretly seeing an Omega. That is ridiculous, I said. Nobody knows anything happened. Nothing happened. Mason reminded me gently. Exactly. Adrian was already reading messages. The conference has reporters downstairs. My family office is asking questions. Your employer may receive calls. Wonderful. I always wanted to become professionally unemployable before lunch. Adrian looked directly at me. I can contain this. There was something intimidating about how calmly he said it. Not threatening. Protective. Adrian was powerful enough that problems apparently became administrative tasks around him. How? Mason asked. Adrian hesitated. That hesitation scared me. We leave together. I blinked. That sounds like the opposite of containing it. If we separate now, they will chase Elliot for an explanation. If we appear together and say nothing, attention stays on me. Mason folded his arms. And me? Adrian looked at him for a second too long. You stay with us. My pulse stumbled. We had agreed this was one night. Somehow morning had turned it into a public alliance. 20 minutes later, we crossed the hotel lobby together. Adrian walked on my right, Mason on my left. Cameras flashed beyond the glass doors. Questions rose from the crowd. Adrian did not touch me until someone stepped too close. Then his hand settled briefly at my shoulder, steady and careful, while Mason moved closer on my other side. For one impossible moment, I felt protected from both directions. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down at the newest headline and stopped breathing. It identified Adrian as my secret alpha partner. Beneath that, Mason had been reduced to 3 words. Their beta friend. Mason read it over my shoulder. He smiled. Well, he said quietly, at least they spell my name right. But his eyes were not smiling. By noon, Adrian Cross had somehow turned our accidental scandal into a strategy meeting, which was impressive considering I was still wearing yesterday's clothes and Mason was eating complimentary hotel cookies like this was premium entertainment. We were sitting in a private conference room 3 floors above the lobby when Adrian placed a single sheet of paper on the table. Absolutely not, I said. Mason leaned over. You have not read it. Adrian printed it. That means it is either a contract or a declaration of war. Adrian sat across from us, perfectly composed in a charcoal suit that had apparently materialized from nowhere. It is a temporary public statement. I read the first sentence. Then I read it again. You want people to believe we are dating? Not exactly. It says private relationship. That is deliberately ambiguous. Mason nodded thoughtfully. Corporate language for please stop asking questions. Precisely. I stared between them. And how long does this fake relationship last? Adrian's jaw tightened slightly at the word fake. Until the conference ends tomorrow evening. We appear together, refuse personal questions, and give the press nothing contradictory. So we lie professionally. We redirect professionally. Mason laughed. Adrian looked at him, and there it was again. That tiny change. His expression softened by maybe 2%, which on Adrian was practically a love letter. I noticed. Worse, I noticed Mason noticing. Fine, I said. But if anyone asks how we met, nobody says destiny. Mason raised his hand. Can I say a mysterious prophecy? No. Shared custody of a golden retriever? We do not have a dog. Adrian quietly said. We met through work. Mason sighed. You make romance sound taxable. An hour later, we entered the conference luncheon together. Conversations dipped almost immediately. Adrian seemed unaffected. I was affected enough for all three of us. Mason leaned closer. Breathe. I am breathing. You are performing a very convincing impression of a statue. Before I could answer, a reporter approached and asked Adrian whether the rumors about his omega were true. I felt Adrian go still beside me. His name is Elliot, Mason said calmly. The reporter barely glanced at him. And you are? Mason Reed. Right. The friend. Something flashed across Mason's face and vanished. Then the reporter turned back to Adrian. So is Elliot your partner? Adrian could have used the statement. He could have, given the safe answer we had agreed on. Instead, he looked directly at me. Elliot decides how Elliot is introduced. The room suddenly felt quieter. I swallowed. We are private, I said. That is all you are getting. The reporter tried another question, but Adrian stepped slightly forward, ending the conversation without raising his voice. It should have been irritating. Instead, it made my chest feel strangely warm. Then Mason touched my elbow. You okay? Yes. His hand disappeared immediately, but Adrian's eyes followed it. Interesting. Very interesting. At lunch, I tested a theory. I laughed too hard at one of Mason's terrible jokes and let my shoulder rest against his for half a second longer than necessary. Adrian's water glass stopped halfway to his mouth. I nearly smiled. Then Mason leaned across the table to straighten Adrian's crooked cuff. My stomach dropped. Oh, that was inconvenient. Apparently jealousy could travel in multiple directions. Adrian glanced at Mason's fingers, then slowly turned his hand over. A heavy silver ring caught the light. I had seen it before, but never this close. A small crest was engraved into the metal. Mason's expression changed instantly. Cross-family seal? Adrian covered the ring. It belonged to my grandfather. That family? I asked. Adrian did not answer. His phone vibrated against the table. A message appeared before he could turn it over. Bring your omega to the Cross Foundation Gala Friday. Alone. Mason looked away first. Adrian locked the screen. Ignore it. Hard to ignore something written like a royal summons, I said. Mason smiled, but that same emptiness from the hotel lobby returned to his eyes. They seem pretty specific about who belongs beside you. Adrian's gaze snapped toward him. Mason, relax. I understand. He stood and reached for his jacket. I should have been worried about Adrian's family. Instead, I was watching Mason walk away, while Adrian watched him too, and a completely different fear settled into my stomach. I was not jealous because Mason wanted Adrian. I was jealous because Adrian might want Mason back. The problem with pretending to belong beside Adrian Cross was that his family had spent generations deciding exactly who was allowed to stand there. I discovered that the next afternoon when a black sedan arrived outside the conference hotel and Adrian's mother stepped out wearing a cream coat, dark sunglasses, and the expression of a woman who had never once been told her reservation was unavailable. Evelyn Cross did not introduce herself. She looked at Adrian, looked at me, then looked at Mason standing several feet away with 3 coffees. So the photographs are accurate, she said. Adrian's face became unreadable. Mother. Her gaze returned to me. Elliot Parker. It was not a question. That is usually what people call me. Mason coughed into his coffee to hide a laugh. Evelyn did not appreciate my contribution to society. Your family has no standing in our circles. Your employment is ordinary. Your suppressant incident is already becoming gossip. Heat crawled up my neck. Good afternoon to you too. Elliot, Adrian said quietly. I expected a warning. Instead, he stepped beside me. Not in front of me. Beside me. Evelyn noticed. Adrian, we should speak privately. Anything concerning Elliot can be said with Elliot present. Her expression tightened. You barely know him. That one landed because it was true. Our agreement was fake. Temporary. Tomorrow evening, according to Adrian's carefully printed page, we were supposed to return to normal. Evelyn glanced toward Mason. And I assume Mr. Reed is managing the inconvenience? Mason's smile faded. Adrian's voice dropped several degrees. Mason is not staff. Then why is he here? Nobody answered quickly enough. I hated that silence. I hated it more when Evelyn gave Mason a polite little smile that somehow felt worse than an insult. I see. No, Adrian said. I do not think you do. Before she could answer, another voice came from behind us. Adrian crossed defending an omega in public. I should have brought champagne. A tall alpha in an expensive navy coat approached, smiling like he already knew where every bruise in a conversation would be. Adrian's posture changed. Grant Mercer. Even I knew the name. His family competed with the Cross organization in nearly everything worth putting on a financial page. Grant looked me over. So this is Elliot. I expected someone more impressive. My stomach tightened. I opened my mouth, but Adrian spoke first. Then your expectations continue to be your problem. Mason looked down, clearly hiding another smile. Grant's expression sharpened. People are saying he engineered the hotel situation. People say many things when facts are inconvenient. You cannot seriously believe this omega simply happened to end up in your room. It was my room, I said. Details, Grant replied. Adrian took one quiet step closer to me. Details are usually where truth lives. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten Grant. Somehow that made every word heavier. Elliot did not manipulate me. He did not ask for publicity. He did not ask for my protection. If anyone wants to question what happened, they can question me. My heart did something deeply unprofessional. Grant glanced at Mason. And the beta? Adrian's eyes followed his. For a second, something unguarded passed between them. Mason was there when Elliot needed someone, Adrian said. That makes him more useful than everyone spreading rumors afterward. Mason went completely still. Evelyn broke the silence. Friday. The gala. Bring Elliot. Her gaze shifted toward Mason. The invitation is for family and recognized partners. Then she walked toward the sedan. Grant followed, looking far too satisfied. Once they were gone, I exhaled. Your family makes airport security feel welcoming. Adrian turned to me. I am sorry. I blinked. Adrian Cross apologizing might have been the actual scandal. You did not say any of those things. I allowed you to become part of this. His voice softened. That makes your treatment my concern. Mason handed me my coffee. Careful, Elliot. That sounded dangerously sincere. Adrian looked at him. It was. Mason's smile vanished. So did mine. Suddenly the fake agreement felt much less fake. Then Adrian's phone buzzed. He read the message, and his expression hardened. I caught only one sentence before he locked the screen. If the beta attends Friday, the board will act. Mason had seen it too. He set his untouched coffee on the table. Do not worry, he said lightly. I know when I am not invited. Then he walked away, and this time neither Adrian nor I knew how to stop him. By Friday evening, I had learned two things about the Cross family. First, they could turn a charity gala into something resembling a royal court. Second, Adrian had been lying to me about who he really was. The discovery happened approximately 40 seconds after I walked into the Cross Foundation ballroom, wearing a borrowed tuxedo and wishing Mason were beside us. He had stopped answering our group messages that morning. Adrian claimed Mason needed space. I claimed Adrian had the emotional instincts of a decorative brick. Neither argument helped. Then a photographer called, Mr. Cross, over here, and Adrian placed a steady hand near my shoulder as cameras flashed. It should have calmed me. Instead, I noticed everyone watching him. Not celebrity watching. Power watching. Executives approached to shake his hand. Board members waited for his attention. Even Evelyn Cross remained several steps away while Adrian spoke. You told me you worked for the family company, I murmured. I do. That is technically true in the same way saying the president works in an office is technically true. Adrian glanced at me. Elliot. Before he could explain, Grant Mercer appeared with a champagne glass and that irritating smile. He still has not told you. My stomach tightened. Told me what? Adrian went silent. Grant looked delighted. Adrian is not merely some executive with an impressive last name. He controls the voting trust that determines the next chairman of Cross Global. I stared at Adrian. Grant continued, and after his grandfather died, Adrian became principal heir to the Cross estate. Suddenly the silver ring made sense. The family seal, the board's threat, the private car, the way reporters followed him. You are the heir? I asked. Yes. And you forgot to mention that. I did not forget. Somehow that was worse. I stepped away from him. So while I was being photographed, insulted, and turned into your mysterious omega, You knew this story was bigger than you admitted. I was trying to protect you from it. By keeping me ignorant? Adrian's jaw tightened. By keeping my family from deciding you were useful. Congratulations. They decided anyway. A voice behind me said, "He is telling the truth about that part." I turned. Mason stood near the ballroom entrance in a black suit, looking uncomfortable enough to bolt. Relief hit me first, then confusion. You came. Not exactly voluntarily. He held up an envelope bearing the cross crest. Someone delivered this to my apartment. Adrian took it. His expression changed as he read. What? I asked. He handed me the letter. It stated that Adrian's grandfather had amended the family trust before his death. Adrian could inherit controlling authority only if his personal partnership was judged stable before the board vote. Public scandal could trigger a review. My stomach dropped. Our fake relationship protects your inheritance. I did not know about this clause until yesterday, Adrian said. But you knew before tonight. Silence. There it was. The part that hurt. Not the money. Not the title. The choice he had made for me. You should have told me. I was going to. When? After I smiled for enough cameras? Mason stepped between the conversation without physically standing between us. Elliot is right. Adrian looked at him. Mason's voice remained calm. You do not protect people by deciding what truth they can handle. Adrian flinched almost invisibly. I had never seen anyone speak to him that way. Then Evelyn approached. This discussion can wait. Adrian, the board is gathering. Elliot, stay beside him. Her gaze landed on Mason. Mr. Reed, you should leave before anyone misunderstands your presence. Adrian's expression went cold. No. Evelyn paused. Excuse me. Adrian moved to Mason's side. He stays. The board recognizes Elliot as your partner. Adrian looked at me, then at Mason. Something passed across his face that frightened me because it looked nothing like strategy. The board does not decide who matters to me. Mason stopped breathing. So did I? It should have felt romantic. Instead, anger burned behind my ribs. Adrian was finally telling the truth in front of everyone, but he had hidden it from the two people who needed it most. I handed him the letter. Handle your board, I said quietly. I need air. Mason started after me, but I shook my head. Not yet. I walked toward the terrace alone, hearing Adrian call my name behind me. For the first time since that hotel room, I did not turn around. The terrace doors closed behind me, and for the first time all night, nobody was looking at me like I belonged to Adrian Cross. Cold Chicago rain drifted beneath the awning, carried sideways by the wind, and I stood there pretending the city lights were fascinating enough to keep me from thinking. They were not. My hands were shaking. I hated that part most. I was angry, not fragile. Unfortunately, my body had missed the meeting. The door opened behind me. I said I needed space. I know. Mason. I turned. He remained by the door instead of coming closer. Adrian stayed inside. Good. Mason lifted my coat. You forgot this. I took it, and our fingers brushed for barely a second. Somehow that tiny contact hurt more than everything Evelyn had said. Why did you come tonight? I asked. Mason looked toward the rain. Because I thought if I stayed away long enough, whatever this is would become simpler. Did it? No. His laugh was quiet and tired. It got worse. I looked at him. Mason swallowed. I missed you. Both of you. There it was. No dramatic confession. No excuse. Just truth. My anger cracked around the edges. I missed you too. The terrace door opened again. Adrian stepped outside without an umbrella, jacket, or apparently any concern for the weather. His hair was already damp. The board meeting is over. That was fast, Mason said. I withdrew my name. I stared at him. From what? The chairmanship. Even Mason looked stunned. Adrian, that position was supposed to become yours. According to my family. Adrian looked at me. Not according to me. I folded my arms. Do not make some enormous sacrifice and expect it to erase what happened. I do not. His answer came immediately. I am not asking you to forgive me. That stopped me. Adrian moved under the awning but kept several feet between us. My grandfather started preparing me to inherit when I was 14. Every school, every internship, every person I dated became part of a plan. When I objected, I was told leadership required sacrifice. He looked down at the silver ring on his hand. Eventually, I became very good at sacrificing things before anyone could take them from me. Mason's expression softened. Adrian continued, quieter now. Privacy. Friends. Choices. People. His eyes lifted to Mason, then me. I thought withholding the trust clause was protection. It was control. I know the difference now. The rain grew heavier beyond the awning. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then Mason asked, "What happens now?" Adrian gave a humorless smile. "My mother is furious. Grant is probably celebrating. The board will find another candidate. And the inheritance?" I asked. "I keep what is personally mine. I may lose control of the company." He said it calmly, but his hand tightened around the family ring. For the first time, I understood that Adrian's power had never made him free. It had simply made his cage expensive. "Why?" I asked. "Why walk away tonight?" Adrian's composure finally slipped. "Because when you left that room, I realized I was doing exactly what my family taught me. Choosing the institution first and assuming the people would still be there afterward." His voice lowered. "I am tired of being good at losing people." Mason looked away. I could not. Adrian took a breath. "I care about you, Elliot." Then he turned toward Mason. "And I care about you." Mason froze. Adrian looked almost terrified now, which seemed impossible until I remembered fear had nothing to do with power. "That is not convenient," Adrian said. "It is not something I understand yet. But it is true. My anger did not disappear. Trust did not magically repair itself. But something changed. Adrian was not asking us to fit into his life anymore. He was finally admitting that we had changed it. Thunder rolled over the city. Mason sighed and opened the umbrella he had been carrying the entire time. "You know there is room under here for 3 people." I almost laughed. Adrian actually did. We walked toward the parking garage beneath one. Umbrella, shoulders occasionally bumping. Nobody pretending the problem was solved. At Adrian's car, Mason stopped. "I am going home." My chest tightened. Adrian's did too. "Mason, I need time." Mason looked at both of us. "Because I care about you too. Both of you. And that is exactly why I cannot keep being the person everyone calls the friend." He stepped into a waiting cab before either of us could answer. Adrian and I stood beneath the rain, watching the taillights disappear. Then my phone buzzed. Mason had left our group chat. And somehow that tiny notification felt like losing an entire room from a house we had only just realized we were building. The story broke at 9:12 the next morning, and by 9:14, half the internet had apparently decided I was a professional gold digger with excellent timing. I was standing in my apartment kitchen staring at my phone when the first headline appeared. Omega Scandal. Leaked agreement reveals Adrian Cross romance was staged. Beneath it was a photograph of the document Adrian had placed on the hotel conference table. Our temporary public statement. Our names. Our agreement to appear together until the conference ended. Someone had circled the words private relationship in red. "Oh, fantastic," I whispered. Nothing says Saturday morning like character assassination. Then the messages started. Co-workers. Unknown numbers. Reporters. One post claimed I had discovered Adrian's inheritance clause and deliberately engineered the hotel incident. Another included a cropped photograph of me accepting Adrian's jacket beneath the cameras. The caption called me ambitious. By 10, someone had posted a screenshot supposedly showing me telling an unknown contact. Once Cross claims me publicly, everything changes. I had never written those words. I knew it. Adrian knew it. But millions of strangers did not. My phone rang. "Adrian." I answered immediately. "Tell me you have seen this." Silence. 2 seconds. 3. "Adrian, I have seen it." His voice was frighteningly calm. And another pause. My stomach dropped. "Do you believe me?" I hated how small the question sounded. Adrian said nothing for 4 unbearable seconds. That was all it took. Every insecurity I had managed to joke around suddenly became real. "Right," I whispered. "Elliot, wait." I ended the call. 20 minutes later, someone knocked hard enough to make me jump. I expected Adrian. It was Mason. He stood in the hallway holding 2 coffees and looking furious in the quietest possible way. "You left the group chat?" I said. "I made a new one. That is not how emotional boundaries work." I panicked. He handed me coffee. "Also, those messages are fake." I stared at him. "How do you know?" "Because the screenshot says you sent it Tuesday at 8:43 in the morning." "So, you were sitting beside me at breakfast Tuesday at 8:43, complaining that Adrian buttered toast like a man negotiating a merger." Despite everything, I laughed. Mason smiled. Then voices rose downstairs. Reporters had gathered outside the building. My stomach tightened again. You should go, I said. Mason's expression changed. Why? Because they already think I used Adrian. You do not need to become collateral damage. Mason set his coffee down. You really think I came here because it was convenient? Before I could answer, another knock sounded. This time Adrian stood outside. No driver. No assistant. No polished coat. Just Adrian, looking like he had not slept. I stepped back. For seconds, his brow furrowed. What? I asked whether you believed me, and you waited 4 seconds. Adrian went completely still. I was reading the metadata report legal had just sent me. I blinked. What report? He handed me his phone. The leaked document had been photographed from Grant Mercer's account during the luncheon. The fake message screenshot had been assembled from pieces of unrelated texts taken from a conference networking thread. Adrian had proof. Why did you not say that immediately? Because I thought evidence would matter more than reassurance. Mason rubbed his forehead. You are unbelievably bad at being a person. I am learning. Adrian looked at me. For the record, Elliot, I never doubted you. Something inside me loosened, but outside, the crowd grew louder. Adrian glanced toward the window. There is a press briefing at the Cross Foundation in 30 minutes. Please tell me you are canceling it. No. His voice turned cold again, but not toward me. Grant wanted a public spectacle. He can have one. Half an hour later, cameras filled the foundation lobby. Grant stood near Evelyn, wearing the expression of a man expecting victory. Adrian stepped to the microphone. He said nothing for several seconds. The room waited. So did I. Then Adrian held up the leaked agreement. This document is authentic. Whispers exploded around us. My heart stopped. Adrian looked directly at me before continuing. But the story attached to it is a lie. Elliot Parker never pursued my money, my position, or my family name. I asked him to participate because I wanted to protect him from attention created by my life. Grant's smile disappeared. Adrian placed the document down. And Mason Reed was never an accessory to that arrangement. Mason froze beside me. Adrian's gaze moved between us. They are not embarrassments I intend to hide when circumstances become inconvenient. They are 2 people I care about. A reporter shouted, "Which one is your partner?" Adrian was silent. My pulse hammered. Then he stepped away from the microphone, crossed the space between us, and stood beside Mason and me instead of returning to his family. That, he said calmly, is a question the 3 of us will answer for ourselves. Not you. Cameras erupted. Mason stared at him, visibly shaken. Then he whispered, "Would you have said that if nobody were watching?" Adrian looked at him. I should have said it when nobody was. Adrian had already destroyed the lie, but apparently he was not finished. Grant Mercer learned that 30 seconds later, when Adrian returned to the microphone and placed his phone beside the leaked agreement. "Before anyone leaves," he said, "there is one more thing." The room went quiet again. Grant shifted near the front row. Evelyn watched her son with an expression I could not read. Adrian tapped the screen, and the display behind him changed from the Cross Foundation logo to a timeline. At 11:17 Thursday morning, this photograph of our private agreement was created. The original file retained location data, device information, and a cloud synchronization record. Grant's face changed. Barely, but Mason saw it too. The device belonged to an account registered to Grant Mercer's consulting office, Adrian continued. That proves nothing, Grant said quickly. Adrian looked almost bored. Correct. Which is why I kept looking. Another document appeared. At 6:12 Friday evening, an outside public relations contractor received payment to distribute the photograph and an altered message attributed to Elliot Parker. A company name appeared beneath the transaction. Then another record. Then another. Adrian never raised his voice. He did not need to. The payment originated from a Mercer Holdings communications account. The room erupted in whispers. Grant stepped forward. This is absurd. Then you will have no objection to an independent review. Adrian's gaze stayed level. I have already submitted the original files to Council and the Conference Ethics Committee. Grant looked toward Evelyn as if expecting help. She gave him none. For the first time since meeting him, Grant Mercer had nothing clever to say. Adrian turned toward the reporters. Elliot did not fabricate this relationship for money. He did not manufacture the hotel photographs. He did not send the message being circulated online. Those claims are false. My throat tightened. Then Adrian did something I did not expect. He took off the Cross family ring. The silver caught the lights before he placed it beside the microphone. My family taught me that reputation is something you defend at any cost. I disagree. People are. Nobody moved. Adrian looked directly at me. The public arrangement was my idea. It began as damage control. That part was artificial. My heart stumbled. What happened afterward was not. Every camera turned toward me. Adrian did not seem to notice them anymore. Elliot, I care about you because you challenge me when everyone else agrees with me. You make me laugh when I am trying very hard not to. And you have never once treated my name like it was more important than the person carrying it. My eyes burned. I hated public feelings. They were extremely inconvenient. Then Adrian turned toward Mason. And Mason, I care about you because you stay when staying offers you nothing. You notice what people need before they ask. You make rooms feel safer simply by being in them. I should have recognized sooner that calling you our friend was not enough. Mason stared at him. Adrian, you asked whether I would say this without cameras. Adrian stepped away from the microphone. I would. But I am saying it with cameras because the humiliation was public, so the truth should be public too. That line hit the room like silence. Then a reporter called. So you are choosing Elliot? Adrian stopped beside me. Yes. Another voice immediately shouted. And Mason? Adrian looked at him. Yes. Mason made a tiny sound somewhere between a laugh and disbelief. I wiped at my eyes. You realize that answer is going to create approximately 9,000 more headlines. I know. Your public relations team is going to resign. Probably. Mason finally stepped closer. Your mother may actually combust. From across the room, Evelyn said dryly. I can't hear you, Mr. Reed. Mason looked horrified. I laughed so suddenly I nearly lost my balance. Adrian caught my elbow, then immediately loosened his hand, leaving the choice to me. I did not move away. Mason came to my other side. Not behind us. Not several feet away. Beside us. Grant quietly headed toward the exit, but Adrian stopped him with one final sentence. Grant. He turned. Adrian's expression remained calm. You try to make Elliot ashamed of being chosen and Mason ashamed of wanting to be. You misunderstood all three of us. Then Adrian looked at Mason and me, and the coldest man I knew smiled in front of every camera in Chicago. I am the lucky one. For once, nobody had a question ready. 3 months later, Adrian handed Mason and me a contract across the kitchen table, and I immediately said, absolutely not. Mason leaned over my shoulder. You have not read it. I have lived this scene before. Nothing good happens when Adrian Cross owns a printer. Adrian, seated across from us in a navy sweater instead of a 3-piece suit, looked deeply offended. It is 1 page. That is how they get you. Mason picked it up and started laughing. Elliot read it. I reluctantly took the paper. At the top, Adrian had written household agreement. Beneath that were exactly 3 rules. Nobody makes decisions for another person. Nobody lets family, reporters, or social expectations define the relationship. Nobody pretends not to have feelings when everyone clearly does. I stared at the final line. You wrote this. I had assistance. Mason raised his hand. Rule 3 was mine. Of course it was. After the press conference, life had not magically become simple. Grant faced an independent ethics investigation. The false stories were formally retracted, and the Cross Board selected another chairman. Adrian surprised everyone by seeming relieved. He kept his personal investments, stepped away from the succession fight, and started building something smaller that belonged entirely to him. Evelyn took longer. Her first dinner with all 3 of us contained enough silence to qualify as experimental theater. Her second was better. By the 4th, she had started asking Mason about his work instead of pretending he was temporary. I considered that progress. Mason had not moved back into our group chat immediately. He made us earn that. Adrian apologized without trying to buy forgiveness. I apologized for treating Mason like the emotional bridge between Adrian and me instead of admitting I wanted him for myself too. Mason admitted that leaving had been easier than risking being openly rejected. Nobody emerged looking particularly heroic. That helped. Real relationships, I discovered, were less about dramatic declarations and more about deciding who bought groceries. Eventually, we stopped asking whether what we were doing looked normal. Then came the apartment. Adrian could have chosen a penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. Instead, we found a place in Lincoln Park with tall windows, an embarrassingly small kitchen, and enough room for 3 desks because Mason refused to work beside Adrian if Adrian was going to sigh at spreadsheets. On moving day, Rain tapped softly against the windows, reminding me of the hotel where everything had started. I stood surrounded by boxes while Mason attempted to assemble a bookshelf without instructions. Adrian watched him for 5 minutes before quietly taking the instruction booklet out of the trash. "Coward," Mason said. "Structural realist," Adrian replied. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. Later that evening, we walked to a small restaurant 2 blocks away. No security, no foundation board, no carefully prepared statement. Just 3 men going to dinner. Someone recognized Adrian near the entrance. A phone appeared. For 1 second, old instinct returned, and I almost stepped away. Adrian noticed. He did not reach for me. He simply held out his hand and waited. Choice. Always choice now. I took it. Then Mason looked at our joined hands and raised an eyebrow. Seriously? You two are leaving me out after everything? I offered him my other hand. Mason accepted it with a grin. The photograph appeared online before dessert. This time there was no scandal attached to it. No secret arrangement. No anonymous beta friend. Just the 3 of us walking through Chicago together. Adrian looked at the picture and smiled. They finally got something right. Back home, I signed our ridiculous household agreement. Mason signed beneath me. Adrian signed last, then placed the old fake agreement beside it. Should we destroy this one? He asked. I thought about that hotel room. 3 impossible rules, and the morning when I had believed Adrian holding Mason's hand was the beginning of a disaster. Keep it, I said. Why? Mason asked. I looked at both of them. Because I want proof that we were once stupid enough to think this would only last 1 night. Adrian laughed. Mason leaned against my shoulder. Adrian settled beside us, and outside our windows Chicago glittered beneath the rain. We had started as an accident, survived becoming a scandal, and somehow ended up becoming a choice we kept making every day. And maybe that was the real promise. Nobody belonged to anyone. But tomorrow morning, if 2 hands reached across me again, I already knew exactly where mine would go.